What's growing on, gardeners? It's Saturday, July 22nd, and it is peak summer heat here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, and that means that fig season is beginning. And on today's video, I'm going to share with you my favorite early ripening short season figs that you can grow in practically any climate, even cold climates with short summers previously thought to not be warm enough long enough to grow figs.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon store and spread shop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Fig trees are deciduous trees with a defined winter dormancy period. However, because they come from the Mediterranean where the winters are very mild and frosts are pretty rare, they are generally considered to be a not very cold hardy tree. Now, when they are fully dormant, they can tolerate hard freezes. However, because they come from such mild Mediterranean regions, it seems to be that their dormancy is tenuous, and if you get a couple of warm days in February, they tend to snap right out of it, which leaves them very susceptible to frost and freeze damage. Even here in Zone 8 where I live, and our winters are pretty mild, some of my fig trees still take winter damage. Some of them sail right through, whereas others wake up too early and then they get damaged, and I have to cut off a whole bunch of the wood come late winter, early spring, and then sometimes more cold damage shows up in terms of split wood and missing bark that manifests throughout the season. So even here where it's pretty mild, that cold damage can accumulate season after season. Some of my younger trees are susceptible to total dieback on winters, so even here in Zone 8A, they sometimes have to start all over again from the base. So because we deal with cold damage even here in Zone 8A, what are people in colder climates supposed to do? For this reason, a lot of people in chilly climates don't bother growing figs at all. However, I'm here to tell you that I know people that have grown figs successfully all the way down to Zone 5A, even in wicked cold, freezing climates with short summers. And I'm going to share with you a few varieties that make that possible and give you some tips so you can grow figs all the way down to Zone 5, maybe even 4B. The reason why this is possible is because fig trees grow very well in containers. I have dozens of figs in containers that you can see right here, and they sail through the winter no problem. They actually tend to do a whole lot better than my in-ground fig trees and are a lot earlier. And the things that make this possible, even in cold climates down to Zone 5, is their period of dormancy. If you live in a chilly climate and you want to grow figs in containers, really all you have to do is just allow the first few frosts of the fall to come in and defoliate all of the trees, and then you will cut them back to a neat compact shape, and then you will bring them inside to either a basement or a garage that rarely drops below freezing once they enter that period of dormancy, and they will keep in a cool but not freezing cold dark area until the spring. Then when the spring comes, you simply drag them outside. So even if you live in very cold climates, compensating for the cold itself is actually fairly easy with the winter dormancy overwintering technique. The challenge that you will have is finding varieties of figs that will ripen in a short enough time frame once the figlets form for your lack of warm growing season, because figs like warm temperatures of at least say 75 to 80 degrees, preferably warmer, in order to ripen properly. So if you live in a short season climate, it's not the cold that's the problem, it is selecting the right varieties that can ripen in a short growing season. So now I'm going to give you some of my absolute favorite early ripening varieties that you can grow successfully even in short season summer climate places. My number one favorite short season variety of fig is hands down Ronde Bordeaux. The reason why I like Ronde Bordeaux the best is, while it's not the only early fig out there, it is one of the best tasting. For an early fig, this thing is absolutely incredible, and in my garden every year, it's always my first fig to ripen. I've already harvested 4 figs off of this tree, and they were fantastic. And I have even more figs that are ripening as we speak. This is the back side of the tree that's in full sun. You can see these 2 figs are just in the process of getting ripe. This one is drooping in the rear, and then there are 2 more figs over here that are starting to change color. And let me tell you, in terms of early figs, this is the one. So we are going to pick this wonderful fig right here, and you can see how incredibly beautiful this fig is, and I can't wait to cut into it and show you. One of the challenges that we have here in the south is that our thunderstorm season coincides with fig ripening season. Now, because figs originated in the Mediterranean, where summers are effectively completely rainless, they did not evolve to tolerate any rain. So when you get significant rainfall and the fruits get wet, they tend to burst and sour and ferment and no longer become edible. Some of the later season varieties of figs can take 7 to 10 days to hang on that fig tree and ripen. So it's almost impossible for us to get long periods of dry weather like that this time of year. However, Ronde Bordeaux tends to ripen in only about 3 days from the day it starts swelling. And that makes it possible for me to grow these in the southeast. So even if you live in the rainy southeast, you can probably grow Ronde Bordeaux. And just look at that incredible fig right there. That is jammy, that is juicy. For an early season fig, it is hard to get a fig with that type of jammy, jelly-like interior. So now let's give it a little taste. Oh, that is so good. I love the start of fig season because I truly appreciate them. It's been 10 months since I've had a fresh fig like this. Now that fig was just incredible. It tastes like a various mix of berries, like a blackberry or a raspberry, but it also has that deep, intense taste of raisins in the background. And there's just a little bit of a melon undertone to it because it probably could have hanged a little bit longer on the tree to ripen. However, we're supposed to have a thunderstorm start this afternoon, so I needed to pick that fig. The second early season fig that I simply must share with you is São Miguel Roxo, sometimes also called Azores Dark, which is a fitting misnomer because São Miguel Roxo is one of the Portuguese islands that make up the island chain, the Azores. São Miguel Roxo is a Mount Etna type fig, which is a subcategory of figs that fig collectors have created to describe figs that all have very similar characteristics. For example, the most popular Mount Etna type fig is the Chicago Hardy fig, or the Hardy Chicago fig, and you can find these planted all over the United States. Now, the reason why Chicago Hardy is so popular is because it is both rain resistant and it is a short season fig that has the uncanny ability to die all the way back to the ground in really chilly winter climates, but still grow back vigorously enough and quickly enough, and still have the ability to ripen its fruit in locations that really only have about a 6-month growing season length. So if you live in zone 6, maybe even in some pretty warm zone 5s, you can still grow Chicago Hardy quite often in ground. Now that being said, if you've been following my YouTube channel for a long period of time, you know that I often don't have a lot of good things to say about Chicago Hardy. I think it's a bit of a mealy textured fig. It simply never wowed me. Well, the reason why I like São Miguel Roxo so much is it is basically very similar to Chicago Hardy, but I think it is superior in every way. It is larger and it is better tasting, and it still fruits in about the same period of time, and it has those same cold hardy, come back from total dieback and fruit quickly characteristics. So if you want something that's like a Chicago Hardy, but better, you can go with São Miguel Roxo. It is only July 27th and I already have numerous São Miguel Roxo figs ripening on my tree. This is the tree right here. I have a nice one that is getting nice and dark and exhibiting some cracking up here. I have a larger fig down here that is also exhibiting some really nice cracking. And then I have 2 more figs that are ripening right here. So I'm going to pick the ripest ones and show you. And I have 3 gorgeous São Miguel Roxo figs ripe and ready to eat right here. But before I cut into these and show you them, I want to take you over to another tree which is similar to this one. And that fig tree is the third fig tree that I want to feature on this video, and that is the Marseilles Black VS fig tree that you see right here. This is also a Mount Etna type fig, so it is extremely similar to Chicago Hardy and São Miguel Roxo. But once again, I think Marseilles Black VS is a superior fig to Chicago Hardy. It's very similar, I think it just tastes a little bit better, and it is larger. Now the reason why I'm featuring this tree is because it is a lot easier to find than São Miguel Roxo. São Miguel Roxo is still a fairly rare fig, so if you're not able to successfully find that tree, this is a much more common alternative, and I want to take you in for a closer look. My Marseilles Black VS fig tree is basically at the same level of ripeness that the São Miguel Roxo is. It has 5 or 6 figs in here that are pretty nicely sized that are in the process of ripening. You can see them in all different corners. Now it's a couple of days behind, so these aren't exactly as perfect as the São Miguel Roxo figs are. They're probably a day or 2 off of peak ripeness, so for that reason it's hard to give a perfectly fair comparison, but we're going to have some rainy weather, so I really don't have much of a choice. but to pick the ripest ones and give you a side-by-side comparison. And just to show you a side-by-side comparison to my actual Chicago Hardy fig tree right here, this one actually doesn't have any figs that are in the process of ripening yet. They are getting larger in terms of green figs, but they haven't begun to swell yet. So that goes to show you that these other varieties, they're just as early, if not even earlier. So they're a really good alternative to Chicago Hardy. I think they're both technically superior in terms of taste. And here is a side-by-side comparison of the two figs. This is the San Miguel Roxo right here. This is the Marseilles Black. And really the only difference between the two is that this is 2 or 3 days riper and the Marseilles Black is just a little bit behind. So it's not going to be a perfect comparison, but you can see these are almost identical figs right here. So now we will cut into the figs. We will start off by cutting into the San Miguel Roxo. And ooh, this looks so good. That is a perfectly looking, super jammy fig. This is about as good as a Mount Etna type is going to get. I just know this is going to be pretty amazing. And then similarly, we will cut into the Marseilles Black VS. And it's not as jammy because it's a few days underripe. So again, not a fair comparison completely. And then here is a side-by-side of each. This is the Marseilles Black, which is a couple days underripe, and this is the San Miguel Roxo, which I about nailed the timing on. So we will start with this perfect San Miguel Roxo. That is so much better than any Chicago Hardy fig I've ever had. It has a lot of deep berry notes. So there's a hint of raspberry or blackberry in there. It's kind of like a mix between honey, raspberry, and blackberry. A very light, refreshing berry fig. Then we will try the Marseilles Black VS. Similar taste, it's just, since it's a few days underripe, it has more of a melon tone, and we had 2 days of rain, so it's a little bit waterlogged, so it's not a perfect comparison. So if you're looking for a fairly cold hardy fig that can die back to the ground and then come back and fruit for you in a single year, and something like a Chicago Hardy seems attractive to you, I think both of these are superior varieties, with the best Mount Etna type that I've ever had being the San Miguel Roxo. The fourth early fig that virtually anyone can grow is a variety that almost nobody talks about, but I rave about every single year, and that is the Olympian fig. Maybe it's because it's so readily available, it's one of the most common commercially sold figs out there, but it is just amazing. It is one of my favorite figs. It tolerates rain, it's cold tolerant, everything about this fig is just awesome, and the flavor is unlike any other fig that I have. It's July 30th, and I have my first ripe Olympian fig of the year, and it's been a miserable couple of days. Today is finally a dry day, but the last 3 days have had deluge thunderstorms. We've logged almost 6 inches of rainfall for the month, which is about on par what we usually see in July, and I'm starting to get my very first ripe Olympian. Now, this probably could use another day, all things considered, but because we're supposed to get more rain all throughout the week, we are going to pick it now. And what is really impressive about this fig is that it survived all of this terrible rainfall. A lot of figs would get destroyed in this weather, but all things considered, this fig feels pretty great. When it comes to figs, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and by that I mean there is an enormous resale market for figs. New varieties or hot varieties of figs can sell for $50 to $100 a cutting. It's crazy, and a lot of those brand new varieties aren't necessarily any better than the older varieties out there. It's just when they become common, they just kind of lose a lot of favor. And one thing that I commit to on this channel is I don't want to give you guys any recommendations that is going to cost you an arm and a leg to purchase, or that it's going to be almost impossible for you to find. Every single fig variety that I've listed in this video is commonly available, except maybe the San Miguel Roxo. You may have to look around for that one a little bit, but it's not really uncommon and it's not really expensive. And that's why I also gave you some fungible varieties that you can use that are pretty similar. Now, this Olympian is an English brown turkey variety, and it is a dime a dozen. It is as common as it gets. But the thing that I love so much about this fig is this fig tastes like peaches. It's the only fig that I grow that tastes like peaches. And you can kind of see that in its very amber interior. It has the same kind of look as peaches. Boy, one thing I love about this new lens that I bought is it allows me to get really close-up shots. It looks like peaches. Now I'll do a taste test. So again, this is our first Olympian of the year. I can't wait to try it. That is, honest to goodness, that is the best fig I've had all year. Out of all the other ones I've picked, this is the best tasting one. This tastes like peaches dripping in syrup. Brittany's going to be so upset that I'm not going to share this with her. Luckily, I have a whole tree full of them. Wow, I can't believe that that is a fig that ripened after days of rain. It should taste waterlogged, but I'm telling you, best fig of 2023 so far. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention about the Olympian fig, it's called Olympian because the mother tree was originally discovered in Olympia, Washington, where they get almost no sustained warm weather, and it's a fairly short growing season. So that fig is still able to ripen all the way in Olympia, Washington. And for you Pacific Northwest growers out there, it has a really large Breba crop if you're a grower that grows for Breba. The Brebas don't really set here in the southeast. I find that to be true with pretty much all fig varieties, but if you have those dry, modified Mediterranean summers like they do in the Pacific Northwest, they tend to make the Brebas hold. So if you grow for Breba and you have a really short season, that Olympian fig is just great. The fifth and final fig variety that I want to show you in this video that I think is an early season fig that will do well almost everywhere is my Smith fig. Now, my Smith fig is growing in ground, and for that reason, it is several weeks behind any of my container figs. I'm able to get my container figs a big jump start in the season because I'm able to protect them from the frost and freeze when they bud out early. I cannot do that with my in-ground trees, so that's why the in-ground trees are always behind. And for that reason, I'm saving this fig for last because I don't have any ripe fruits that I can show you just yet. However, over this video, I will overlay a cut section and a taste test of Smith figs that I've harvested in the past. It is a beautiful strawberry jam-like fig of smaller to medium size, usually in the 30-gram range, although sometimes they can get larger in the 40 to 50-gram range. All of these fig trees that you see right here are the first figs that I ever planted in ground in my property. And for that reason, the Smith fig tree was the very first one to go in. It is minutes older than any of the other ones. And this has been through some really cold weather. We've gotten as low as I think maybe 14 degrees since I've planted this tree. And you can see just how much of a monster trunk this has on it. It survived a lot of cold. It survived a little bit of borer damage. You can see there is a little bit of cold damage on the trunk right there. However, every year it comes back and it loads itself up with figs. It is a beautiful tree. It is super reliable, and I think it's one of the best high quality figs out there that tolerate rainfall. That is what is really great about this fig tree. It's pretty resistant to rain. Even after heavy rains, a lot of the fruits will still hold up. So in that sense, it's a lot like the Celeste fig tree that is so popularly grown in the South because of how rain resistant it is. However, this tastes leaps and bounds above the Celeste. While the Celeste tastes like a brown sugar type fig, this is like a deep, rich strawberry jam. The pulp is really something amazing, and it puts out a whole lot of figs, and the figs that do put out, they ripen very quickly. So they have a short hang time. Once they start swelling, within about 2 to 4 days, they will be ready for you to harvest, and they drip a lovely strawberry syrup from the eye when they're ready. And that right there are 5 super versatile, common, inexpensive, easy to find fig trees that almost anybody can grow. Just remember, when I say almost anybody can grow them, that doesn't mean that anybody can grow them in ground. They still are fairly sensitive to cold. I think that once you get past zone 6A, you're going to struggle to grow these because in zone 6 and some zone 7s, they are going to die back to the ground every single year. So you'll need to wait for the ground to warm up for them to bud out from the roots and then to grow back and put on new branches and then new fruits. It's totally possible because figs fruit their main crop on the New Year's wood. However, you still have to have enough warm weather in order to do that, because most figs, even the early season figs, tend to take about 60 to 70 days after they form that first little figlet to actually ripen. So for those of you that can't grow these in ground, you will be able to grow these in containers. I know for a fact they are growable down to zone 5A, maybe even some 4Bs or even 4As if you have a greenhouse that can really give you some kind of jump start. So I want to make you aware of these varieties. They're really easy for you to find, so if you want to grow figs, consider these. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video was helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use to grow my figs or that I use to grow food in my garden in general, they are all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. So expand the video description, click on the Amazon store link, and you'll see everything I use in real life. And while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
Let's see, calculating the angle of the sun, cosine of 45 degrees. Sun should be right about there. There he is. Hello, Dale. Are you sun puddling in the sunspot? Is that what you're doing, buddy? Look at that. What a nice day outside. Dale is just lapping up the sun. How's my handsome boy? How's my handsome boy, buddy? You want to go outside? You want to go outside? It's so hot in there. It's so hot outside. It looks nice, but what do you think? Outside or inside in the air conditioning? I think he was content and I disturbed him.